Okay, thank you for joining us as we call to order the regular school board meeting of the Snowline Unified School District. First item of order is closed business. Are there any comments relative to closed session?
No public comments regarding closed session.
Thank you very much. The board will convene to closed session. And thank you very much for joining us tonight. As the board reconvenes from closed session, there's nothing to report out. Tonight, we will focus on Wrightwood Elementary School as our school on spotlight. As you know, located up in the mountain area of Wrightwood, 307 students attending Mr. John Gardner as principal's Raccoon Elementary School. Wrightwood Elementary School takes great pride in the strong relationships that they have forged with the small community it serves. Wrightwood Raccoons engage regularly with the community through the walking school bus, the History of in a Suitcase project, the Wrightwood Veteran Ceremony, senior citizens luncheons, the ski and snowboard program at Mountain High, the Raccoon Running Club, and the Excel Club, which will be competing in Destination Imagination this spring. Wrightwood Raccoons have many different opportunities to experience success and growth, and they thrive as the pride of the Wrightwood community. So we thank you tonight, Wrightwood Elementary School, for being our school on spotlight. If you'll please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and that'll take us to community comments. Do we have any community comments tonight?
None.
None.
Nope.
Well, thank you very much. On to adoption of the agenda. Are there any items on the agenda that any board member would wish to pull? All right. Do I have a motion to accept the adoption of the agenda as it's been presented?
Move approval.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. And a preferential vote from our student board member? Thank you. We will do a roll call vote as we have several members with us virtually tonight. We'll start with Member Flores.
Aye.
Clerk Kalum.
Aye.
Member Bristol.
Aye.
Member Behringer.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Oh, thank you very much for that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And taking us to, is correct for administration first?
Oh, God. How did I do that, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. Oh, yeah.
Nothing under it, but
Bonus administrative, yeah.
We can cross that off.
Excellent.
sorry.
Very
Cross it off.
good.
We finished it.
All right, that'll take us to item I for consent motion agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as it's been presented?
move approval.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. And as the preferential vote of our student board member? Thank you very much. And our roll call vote will go to Member Kalum.
Aye.
Thank you. Clerk Flores.
Aye.
Thank you. Member Bristol.
Aye.
Member Behringer.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you very much. With that, we just approved the minutes of the December 14th, 2021 regular meeting of the Snowline Joint Unified School District Board of Trustees. Approved personnel motions. Approved resolution number 22-1560 and annual developer fee, statutory school fees and mitigation payments report for fiscal year 2020-21 in compliance with Government Code Section 66001 and 66006. Approve the request for establishment of Fund 35. Approve the student expulsion and or stipulated expulsion and or stipulated suspended expulsions. And approve the district financial transactions, taking us to item J1. Dr. Holman.
Thanks so very much, President Hernandez. Just a quick sound check, Robert. Are you hearing me okay at this distance? Okay, thanks so very much. So this does get us to the first item under administrative comments, and with thanks in advance to Robert Chacon for presenting for me. This is the regular presentation that we have at each meeting. directly addressing the learning design based upon the initiation of the pandemic back in March of 2020. So here we are in a new year. Happy New Year to everyone, of course, again. January 11, 2022, Robert, we'll go right to the beginning here and look at our outcomes. What we're endeavoring to do is that shared understanding, shared commitment around what we are doing to provide services to our students, right? And so with that, we'll see the agenda coming up here. Robert, thanks. Fairly, we've had pretty similar agendas. What I will bring attention to are the rapid test kits for students that is new on that agenda, and I'll speak to that much more clearly than I have so far in this presentation. Robert, thanks for the review of the agenda. These other slides we've seen as well, but I do like to keep them in here to ensure that we remind ourselves of the guidance we're following in those 5 agencies. Our next one is the motto throughout the entire pandemic, and our next slide, Robert. So thanks for moving along here. Appreciate it. That quickly and safely as possible, but tightly aligned to those public health guidelines, which we'll discuss again, the changes there, and we'll do so as always together. We have those 2 learning designs, Snowline Academy at home and the in-person, of course, that we're certainly in the throes of right now. And Robert, when we go to that last slide that we continue to see regularly, the metrics, right? The daily new cases and the 2 positivity rates, the second one being in the healthy place index. We're going to continue to monitor those, even though that colored tiered system is not in place. We use it as a guide based upon our efforts throughout the pandemic. We can hopefully compare much more easily with that color-coded tiered system. So let's get into the data. Our 5 communities, Oak Hills, Phelan, Pinion Hills, Victorville, and Wrightwood. We'll begin with Oak Hills. I will tell you this came off at about 4 o'clock today. There's a problem with the system for Oak Hills with nothing there in terms of the daily case rate there, but we'll continue on the other ones. This comes from the county's website here. You can see these daily case rates really increasing at 32.9 for Phelan. You're going to see Pinion Hills go up, I think, to another number, 40.9. We're going to get to Victorville, and you'll see that number being right around that level. And then finally, Wrightwood, 24.8, all in the purple, those other communities. Again, a little problem with the data for Oak Hills. You can see, and it's not lost on anyone, the impact in our community. San Bernardino County, particularly, I want to bring attention to this. These dates are a little different. I added in a more recent one for San Bernardino County, but if you just look on the left-hand side, again, that's the daily case rate. The two on the right-hand side are the positivity rates. In all instances, though, you can see the trend and you can see the increase. And you can see the increase all the way down to January 1st, where we're doubling, tripling, quadrupling all the way since the beginning of this trend here in November. Probably not lost on anyone when we talk about these daily case rates. And again, the daily case rate, the impact of infections per 100,000. And I will say I was with San Bernardino County Department of Public Health Director with other superintendents in the county. Actually, that case rate as of today, which I didn't even measure up there, as of today is over 100. It's at 110 right now in San Bernardino County. Probably not a surprise to anyone, but just give you perspective on the trend with the Omicron variant and its impact on its infection rate and that high transmissibility. Robert, when we go to our data, Snowline data, we don't have January 1st up yet from the county level, so you can see it's only up to December 25th, but you can see that trend continuing. We feel it. I'll give you some other numbers that will verify how that has increased, beginning with this next slide. There's the dashboard. Now that dashboard, I want to give you perspective here because it might not, those bars might not look as tall as they might look, I should say, as tall as we've seen, but it's on that left-hand vertical column, right? On the y-axis there, those numbers are different. For instance, that first one is Toronto High School, and I think there are 28 current active cases. What's an active case? That is one student or one staff member with a positive COVID-19 test. So we have 28. That number right there at Toronto High School is larger than any number we've had in total on this dashboard since the beginning of July up until, roughly speaking, the last week or two. And that's not only at Toronto High School. You can see across the system, those numbers are much, much larger by a factor. Ultimately, to give you perspective, if you add up all those numbers, that's 118 up there. That's a factor of about 5 to 6 because the largest numbers we've had prior to the Omicron variant spike has been about 23 or 24 total up on that dashboard. So it just gives everyone perspective on about a 5-fold increase here in Snowline within our staff members and students. And I have to be really clear, it's happening throughout the high desert, happening throughout the nation, if not the world in various countries at different rates here. But want to drill down here in Snowline. So Robert, thanks for spending time on this one. We'll go to the next one and continue on Snowline. You see the positive cases throughout the course of the year. Now, I want to bring attention, you've seen this before, a little change though. In the parentheses are the numbers from the last time we were together, roughly speaking. With the last time together, we had a board meeting in the middle of December. So those are on December 10th, you can see. And over the last month, parentheses are December 10th. And then right now, as of today at about 4 o'clock is when I put those numbers in. You can see the increases when you just compare them next to each other. Certainly significant, right? When we talk about the confirmed positive cases for students, staff, and also our total students and staff. And then on the far right-hand side, you can see the percentages, and those, those are commensurate with those increases on the left. Very significant, again, within Snowline and across our system. So really in 1 month's time, from the middle of December until the middle, we're roughly speaking January 11th, we're in the middle of January. You can see those numbers going up significantly, more than doubling for staff. I mean, the impact is significant here in Snowline. So thanks, Robert, for showing that slide. There are the vaccination rates. These rates continue to go up, but at a relatively slow, I mean, certainly a slow rate compared to the Omicron impact that we're seeing. But you can see the any vaccination that's in the gray area and ourselves and as communities compared against San Bernardino County, which is at 64, climbing toward, I guess, eventually 65 there. And our high is about 60, right? So a little bit below the county, and you can see California overall at 80%, and that's any vaccination. So thanks, Robert, for that, that little tour through there. So now what I want to share with you are, let's talk about the test kits, the rapid tests for kids that Governor Newsom put forth as a plan. So today, I'm excited to say that we finally received our allotment. Now I'll go backward here. On December 22nd is when Governor Newsom presented his plan. And that plan was to get 1 or 2 rapid tests in the hands of every single student. Transitional kindergarten, which is included in kindergarten up through 12th grade. So today I want to say a huge thanks to Karen Stevens and she's the director of our purchasing and warehouse and all of the drivers who went down and got the allotment today, because it just came in, and our date to get the allotment was today based upon all of the kits coming in over the weekend. Now, the allocation is 1 box, which is 2 tests, as it says up there, per child, right? And right now, these antigen tests, right? They're not PCR tests. They're self-administered antigen tests, which means those results will come back quickly. Right now, we have about 95% of our allocation. That's I can see a typo there. I should have about another 5 to 6%, forthcoming. So about 94 to 95% is what we were given. Now, all school districts were shorted. And so I will share with you, credit to Ted Alejandre. I was with him in a meeting and all the other superintendents. They have committed to getting more from the state, but we're going to be able to give out that 94 to 95% right away. And that's that next bullet, right? How are we going to distribute? We're going to do this through a drive-through process at each and every school. To do so at the district, I will tell you, we considered that, but just everyone coming in one area will really be problematic here in our district office. So working with our leaders, we're going to have a drive-through process at each school site based upon their learning community and what works well for them. You can see there that we're going to give communications. Want to be really clear. These are optional. There's no requirement for any parent to come in and take them. And that's going to be key. we're going to give these to the parents. We want to make certain that they're going into the hands of the parents. I know that might be a little bit of a inconvenience, but we think about what we're distributing here are chemicals, right? And we want to ensure that we're doing so in the right way, so that it's a safe process, and that every student who wants one, every parent who wants their student to get one, has them, and we can put them in their in their hands. So those plans right now are being developed for that drive-through process. And then lastly, as it says, what are they used for? The design per Governor Newsom's plan and the state officials is for at-home use. And it is really a mitigation strategy to promote more safety. But examples of that at-home use would be, certainly it determines if, as it says up there, that there's a COVID-19 infection, right? In 15 minutes or so, that rapid test that many of us have probably already used. But when we talk about when is that going to be powerful to use, it's going to be powerful to use to see if a child has it and not send that child to school based upon some symptoms, or if a child's already in isolation because he or she has tested positive for COVID-19, or a child is in quarantine because she or he has been a close contact. For coming out of those settings, and I'll talk in more detail about those guidelines in a moment, these tests can be used for 2 occasions. Will we get more? I don't know downstream. There's certainly a lot of talk of that. We're hoping we'll get more beyond this first allocation of 2 tests per child. But at this stage, this is what we've got. I'm thrilled that we've got it, because these can be used as tools to hopefully make for a safer learning environment. And those decisions on whether or not my child has a cold or is it COVID-19, we've got these 2 opportunities at home coming to our families. Look forward to those communications soon. They will be forthcoming, and really I am really excited to be able to provide this resource across the system, so that again we can get these long-awaited. Thanks for an opportunity to say thanks to everyone for being patient with this process. We're getting close to getting them in the hands of everybody. Stay tuned for sure. So Robert, thanks for staying on that slide for quite a bit there. I want to go back to a familiar slide, staff vaccination and testing. It's continuing. We're in about right now the 10th week. I won't belabor all those processes, other than a gigantic thanks to all involved. Some of them are right here with us, right? Robert Chacon, Sean Primo, thank you for your efforts in navigating the COVID clinic offering that we have available. Also the color test kits. Really appreciate your good work in making it happen. Appreciate the staff members who continue to follow that guideline back on October 15th that Governor Newsom required, that those who are not vaccinated are to provide weekly testing. I will tell you, I'm vaccinated. I continue to use that service. That service is becoming very effective. I know Nancy, I look over to her too. She's nodding her head. We do it on a regular basis. It's working well. We appreciate the numbers that are increasing in doing that. And we know we've got to we've got to continue to make that available to those who are to do that. Now, I'll end right here, in saying that, Sean, you really navigate this piece. Anything you'd like to share as you open up your mic, because you've really been leading this effort here.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Holman. Our weekly testing process continues. It's interesting that we had to make one modification on the color side of it and another modification on the at-home testing. So in summary, we offer 3 options for our district employees, right? COVID clinic, the color option, which goes through the county of San Bernardino. And then we also have been allowing staff members to supply their own results. On their own results, what we realize is there's a significant gap in availability. So certainly we've steered our members of our staff to go back and consider color or the COVID clinic. In particular, though, I would say on the color end of it, with our new guidelines, what they're asking for is a test after day 5. So what Robert Chacon and I determined was the best course of action would be to offer our color testing twice a week, so that we're able to allow our staff members to test in order to meet that compliance for, returning. And again, to be real clear, there's 3 levels. One of those levels of, in this case, quarantine is if you're fully vaccinated, but you've been exposed to a close contact, you can stay at work, but you have to test on day 5. So we're trying to be protective of our rapid antigen tests that we need in order to get our positive isolated staff members to return, as well as our close contacts that are unvaccinated. So we're asking for our staff members to test either with COVID clinic or with color. So we've increased the availability just in order to make sure that we're able to meet the demand. But I would have to say we've also, my final point would simply be, we now have had an increased interest in vaccinated staff members testing, not because they're positive, but because they want to stay on top of their health. So we do appreciate, everybody kind of adhering to that self-screening. So did I miss anything, Dr. Holman?
Great job there, Sean. Thanks so very much. I appreciate that, that great information that you added to that slide. Robert, if we can go to the next one here. What we're going to be talking about now are the latest guidelines, and I'll cue up Robert because he'll be talking right after me here for anything that I miss here. So guidelines always changing, not lost on people that we had some relatively significant changes throughout the break that impact us since we've been back at school. And isolation, quarantine, first of all, words matter. Definition, isolation versus quarantine. Really, the CDPH, California Department of Public Health, trying to separate when there's a positive test, a COVID-19 infection, then at that stage, a person, student or staff goes into isolation when there's a positive test. Close contact, if someone's a close contact, that individual goes into quarantine. So I think up until this point, we've always been talking about quarantine. I know it's a shift in language, it'll take a while, but isolation equals positive COVID-19 test, quarantine equals a close contact. So with that definition, we continue to talk about isolation and quarantine in the context of 10 days, but there is a 5-day option that you'll often hear in the news. The CDC guidelines precipitated this, and that is 5 days. But we continue to talk 10 days in isolation and quarantine. But when you get to day 5 on the isolation, that's a positive COVID-19 test, and it says up there, then if in fact, right, Ryan Holman, right, test positive, and then after testing positive on day 5, I have a negative test, right? And I don't have symptoms, or I'm improving, right? The term they use is resolving. I can come back. Well, Ryan, you said 10 days. For the other 5 days, I'm wearing a mask. Now, if I have a negative test, I can test on day 6. I can do on day 7, day 8, get that positive test, whatever the remainder of that is, a tight-fitting, well-fitting mask to get to that 10-day period. Well, that naturally occurs anyways with our guidelines, right? But that's that CDC influence change there when we hear about the 5 days. Quarantine now, right? Quarantine has some changes here. And I will tell you, a gigantic thanks to Robert Chacon and his efforts, Sean Primo, Alan Miller, Nancy Stead. We talked over the break trying to make sense of all the guidelines. Quarantine, there have been some changes there. And let me just continue before I go to Robert. And it's really fully vaccinated as I continue down there, and it will play into the quarantine process here a bit. Fully vaccinated now means having a booster or having your shots, either one with Johnson & Johnson, 2 with Pfizer and Moderna, and still not being booster eligible. So that's the definition of being fully vaccinated. No longer for someone like me who a long time ago, I completed it in March. Now I have the booster. I am fully vaccinated because of the booster, but if I didn't have that booster, I would not be, because of the months that had passed, that 6-month period of time, which I'll get to that in a little bit later on too, would not have been eligible for being fully vaccinated. So keep that in mind with the definition of being fully vaccinated. And also that a change, the indoor masking requirement extended to at least February 15th. It was to theoretically expire if the state officials felt like they could do that. It was recently extended to February 15th. And that means in all indoor settings in California, masks are to be worn So with that being said, I do want to go back real quickly to quarantine. Robert Chacon, you, just as much as anyone living this process, want to talk about the quarantine implications here. I think I give an introduction to that. It can get a little complicated, but what you're seeing and what maybe the public needs to hear, not to mention, of course, our board members relative to quarantine. Hey, Robert, are you on mute?
I am. I'm sort of here chatting away to myself. So probably how everybody likes it. I'll steal that from Ryan, right? So they did, a really good job with really defining isolation and quarantine for the first time. Like Ryan had mentioned, we were really operating under quarantine guidelines all the way up until now. So now what we're experiencing with the quarantine definition is a substantial increase in staff and students being sent home. So as a close contact quarantine, if you're defined as a close contact through quarantine, then you're going to be sent home. You kind of have three options. You're going to be sent home for at least 5 days. You can take a COVID test on the 5th day, and if you are negative, you can return on the 6th day. If your test comes back positive or you decide not to test, then you're out for the full 10 days. And that's anybody who is not fully vaccinated. So those staffers or those students that just have their single dose of J&J or their 2 doses of Pfizer and Moderna, they are not considered fully vaccinated unless they had their booster. So those individuals are being sent home for 5 days under quarantine. We are, like Ryan said, providing those rapid tests to our staff. And hopefully with the addition of rapid testing to our students this week, it'll be more accessible for them as they, enter that 5th day of quarantine. They could take those rapid tests and get back to school on the 6th day if it is negative. They also have to be fever-free for 24 hours. And if they have symptoms, or symptoms also need to be improving. And so on the student end, we're still following pretty much the same guidelines. Nothing really changed for us on the quarantine end for students. You still have those 3 options. Your student can remain quarantined for 10 days. Your student can test after the 5th day, and with a negative test, return as long as they're 24 hours fever-free and symptoms are increasing or improving. Or they can still do modified quarantine. And so also with the addition of those rapid tests this week, we're hoping parents choose that modified quarantine so that their students can remain in school. That requires their student to twice weekly test to wear their mask as required and to monitor their symptoms. They're also not allowed to do any extracurricular activities as well. So there's some differences between our students and our staff. We ask that, parents, if you're listening, or staff, if you're listening, please reach out to the appropriate department. So if you're staff, please reach out to HR. That's COVID-19@snowlineschools.com. That's the email, COVID-19@snowlineschools.com. If you're a student or a parent right now, and you have any type of questions, or you want to help navigating through the quarantine process, you have questions for independent study, please email us at COVID-19tracing@snowlineschools.com. And we'll be happy to get back to you.
Yeah, Robert, thanks so very much. I mean, this is hard work, and really appreciate what everyone has done. And I'll get into the staff members in general, but boy, I'm so thankful for who I get to work with, not just here at this table, but across the system. And boy, the folks working on COVID-19 directly to support our students, staff members, and families. Boy, God bless all of them. They have just been super work. Robert, anything else you want to share?
Yeah, sorry, Ryan. One more thing I forgot to plug for staff. If you're staff, please send us your copy of your booster if you have received it so that we can update your profile. Send that to COVID-19@snowlineschools.com. You can send it to anyone in HR. We'll be happy to get that updated for you in your profile. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks for that, Robert. That's a great reminder. I appreciate you saying that. So with that, Robert, if we can go on to the next slide here, and we'll get down to the end. Want to share with you what I heard today from the Department of Public Health that is San Bernardino County in terms of a consideration. It gets right to what Robert was talking about. specific to close contact. And what was shared, I guess, with San Bernardino, not only San Bernardino County director, but all the directors in the counties in California by the California Department of Public Health, is a forthcoming change that they're predicting. And that's going away from what we just described as this individual model that we've had from day one for close contact, and going to what is called an exposure model to a greater group. And that exposure model, as I heard today, still has some work to be done. We don't know when this will go into effect. So please know what I'm sharing with you right now is just what is being talked about at the state level with the county directors, but they felt free to share this information with us today and said it is okay to just say that the state is looking at a notification process that, hey, in this classroom, there is a positive test, and that there be some level of testing criteria created so that if you see the start of rapid tests being made available, more are going to have to be made available to everybody. So it might be some time, but once we get to that place, and then testing would occur right on the spot, and then close contacts would, as we knew them in the past, would not have to stay quarantined if they tested negative and did not have symptoms. So a lot of details that I don't have. Hopefully that big picture is just something that all of you now understand that is in the works at the state level and should be coming down at some point in time. We'll keep you posted, but wanted to give you the latest information so you are aware of that. So with that, I'll share with you the most frequently asked question beyond what we've talked about is that idea right now. We're in the throes of the most challenging time. I've heard in numerous areas that right now, and maybe up through this week and weekend, are some predictions from some very reliable agencies that we are at the peak of the Omicron variant impact in San Bernardino County. So if that is the case, we continue to get this question: are there plans to close in-person learning? Shortly and simply said, no. Now the details in there talk about, at this point, I will share with you, being right with county officials who are with state officials, there are no plans at that level, and that was expressed to us today. But also we have to know that the legislative requirements changed. Last year, we moved in and out, right? And even in the first year, we moved in and out based upon what the needs were for Snowline. That does not, there aren't provisions in legislation for that to occur. That means then, if we're to make a closure, we would make a closure based upon what we have always done and those guidelines, and that is submitting a waiver, what's called the J13A waiver for fire days, right? But years ago, there was a train incident, right? We submit the waiver. Now, what has to occur, though, is consultation must occur with state and county officials prior to us deciding to go through that process. And then in the end game, what I would say is, from my position with senior cabinet and really across our leadership and all staff members, I think we're united around the idea that in-person learning is best for our kids, right? And we want to keep that open at all costs. And I say at all costs while maintaining safety. And I'll end by saying, boy, how important safety is here. And that is wearing our masks, physically distancing as best as possible, following all the guidelines so that we can keep our kids in school. I think it's not lost on you that staffing right now is at just really challenging levels, not in Snowline, not just in Snowline, not just in the high desert in its schools. I will say in almost every organization, they're at very challenging levels because of the Omicron variant. And I want to reach out right now and say a gigantic thank you to our students, to our parents and community members, to our staff members who are just doing, honestly, I've never seen the amount of work done at the level that it's being done right now to continue to allow for in-person learning to occur. Thank you so very much. I think it's the absolute right work, because the best place for these kids is an in-person. We're going to continue to do what we're doing. We're going to hope that we're right at this peak, and our staff members are really making it happen with the help of students and families. I really appreciate it. Right now, again, no plans at the state and county level, and we're continuing to monitor it in the ways that we have been. So, Robert, thanks for letting me hang out on that slide. And then finally, the only difference in this last slide is, again, step number one right there is distribute those student rapid test kits as soon as possible. Continue to follow those measures and communicate to everyone, like I mentioned, and support one another. Boy, that is so important. I'll certainly answer any questions if you see those hashtags up there, because as a family, we are unified, not just around being kind, but being safe and ensuring what's best for these kids. So any questions? Because that's a lot of information. I thank you for your patience this time, but there's been a lot of changes, and there's a lot of impact across the system for sure.
Thank you for that presentation. To the board, any questions?
No, I'd just like to make a comment and thank all of our employees for enduring this horrible pandemic, and for the administrators for helping out and stepping in to fill in where needed. It's been very challenging for all the staff, I realize, and I greatly appreciate all the effort everybody is putting forth.
Thank you so very much. And it looks like Clerk Flores has a hand up.
Yeah, Clerk Flores.
I was going to say that, but it was just said, but I just wanted to say thanks. I know everybody's doing way more than usual. I read an article, another school district, I mean, it was almost like 1/6 of their whole staff was out. That's a lot. So just thanks for all the hard work right now. And then one question, it was probably 2 or 3 slides back of possibly what new recommendations would be for isolation and quarantine. I thought I saw it.
Just
No,
go on.
maybe like
21, I think.
22.
Robert, yeah. Latest got to be the one after that. There you go. Guideline consideration.
Yeah, it seems like that new model seems to almost be less. Is that right? Am I reading that right?
Yeah, when you say less, less on the quarantine side. I think you're exactly right. Now, here's what I predict there, Clerk Flores, because it's a great question. I predict that will not be implemented until we get out of the peak of this Omicron variant and start to be on the backside. And that's where I made a quick comment that what I'm hearing from agencies, and I think real reliable, state agencies and county agencies, is that this week and maybe, into the weekend might be the peak. We've got an expert over here who really sits on the board, right? And I don't know what he might be hearing, but that's what we're hearing in our conversations. And remember, Bristol, I apologize if I'm putting you on the spot, but I don't know if you're hearing anything along those lines too.
Yeah, I think we're in the peak, but who knows? It could. And then there's the other variants. There's the Delta and the Omicron, and I don't know which one's which. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, so I appreciate you asking there, Clerk Flores. I really do believe that the implementation, we did not get any I guess, clarity on when that is, other than expect that in the relative near future. I think that's going to be in the new future that would be beyond this surge.
I guess my question does seem to be, does it seem like it would stay to, I think you mentioned like notifying an entire classroom that they might have been exposed and not just that 15 minutes, or?
You're exactly right. Notifying that entire class.
Okay.
And then for those with, it sounds like, again, Member Flores, then maybe in some level of those who are symptomatic and so forth, being engaging in some level of testing. My understanding is some level of rapid testing that day or that night so that they can determine whether or not they can come right back that next day.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
For sure.
I understand that there is no consideration at this time to go to a remote school setting. But as you said, our staff is being impacted significantly by this. At what point are we out of teachers, basically? I know at one site we are missing 1/3 of our teaching staff. At what point is it just unfeasible to continue educating kids? I mean,
yeah, it's a great question. When we can't staff them with substitutes, right? We're out of those staff members, right? Those teachers, and then we bring in substitutes, and we can't get enough substitutes and have all of the the extra work being done by administrators. It was mentioned earlier too, covering classes and things of that sort. When that can't be done, we do have to consider, make a consideration for what you're talking about. Thus far, we've been on that edge, and I appreciate all the great work being done. That's why I emphasize we're hoping we're getting to that edge here. But at some point, certainly we can't have one person, an extreme example, one person teach an entire school by any stretch. So we feel like we're really on that edge. We don't have a metric per se. It would just be simply put when we can't cover those classes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I guess I had comments later on during board member comments, but it essentially comes down to that. We're well over the 100 case mark district wide. Like I said, I know one school site's down 1/3 of their teaching staff. We have anybody covering. To our entire community, I want to ask everyone, please stay safe out there. Be well. Take care of yourself and those around you. Other states are closing schools down. Those that, would have taken a stand against that at all costs are going to that. And as you said, we're on that ledge. If we as the public, as we as a community and a family can do all that we can to back off that ledge, we need you to do that. Please take care of yourself. And my heart goes out to our entire staff. Thank you guys. I know this is beyond hard. And I've reached out to many and I've heard these stories. Hang in there. I want to do all we can to take care of each other while we get through this. So
I just have one more thing. It's kind of the way the rotation is. It seems like our teachers, worried about our staff and our teachers being all out at once, but they're sort of rotating through at a certain rate by I don't know what reason, but it seems like we have some positive cases. We have teachers out, and the other teachers are filling in for them, and then those teachers will come back when those teachers that were coming with them will go out. So it seems sustainable to me at this point.
okay. All right. Guess there are no other comments to your presentation. So once again, thank you for that. And we'll move on to Administrative J2, Dr. Holman.
Oh boy, thank you so very much. I'm sorry, I'll bring up my
Yeah.
apologize. Yeah, I just oh, here,
This is going to be the resolution.
thank you. Sorry about that.
With AB 361.
Yeah, with my slow effort on the community. Yeah, that resolution is exactly mentioned just by President Hernandez. I appreciate that. The resolution that's before you is for possible virtual board meetings, and I want to emphasize that. So right now, and we have had the hybrid, when we talk about the virtual remote setting that was just discussed in the previous item, this is a resolution that all boards throughout the state of California are to approve on a monthly basis, month by month, that then would allow for completely virtual meetings to occur. So we bring this to you for the first time. I've got it in administrative comments so I could explain that. Again, it's just for the possibility that we would need to shut down and hold completely virtual meetings. That's certainly not the recommendation right now. But if approved through this resolution, then each month we would put this under consent and would do it month by month so that we stay in compliance with the Brown Act opportunity, or the opportunities that have been given us through the Brown Act modification. So thanks for bearing with me as I got into my agenda.
No, thank you for that. So that's resolution number 22-1561. Any comments or questions to that resolution? None. Okay, so this resolution has come to us for approval. Do I have a motion to approve it?
I'll make motion.
Thank you, clerk. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Bristol. And a preferential vote from a student board member. Thank you. And we get a roll call vote. We'll start with Member Kalum.
Aye.
Thank you. Clerk Flores.
Aye.
Member Bristol.
Aye.
Member Berenger?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. That's approved unanimously. Thank you. And I'll take us to administrative item J3.
Thank you, President Hernandez. And you said it well. It is an administrative item, and it is the approval after this second reading here that would occur right now. Up for approval is one board policy, 3 administrative regulations, and the requisite exhibit attached to or connected to, I should say, the administrative regulation. And up for approval. I'm certainly willing to answer any questions as need be.
Very good. Any questions from the board? All right, this is for board approval. Do I have a motion to approve the board policy, 3 administrative items, and this 1 exhibit?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Member Bristol. A second.
Second.
Thank you. And we'll go to a preferential vote from our student board member. Thank you. And we'll do a roll call vote. Clerk Kalum.
Aye.
Sorry about that. Member Kalum and Clerk Flores.
Aye.
Thank you. Member Bristol.
Aye.
Member Berenger.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. All right, that'll take us to our human resources item K1, Mr. Primo.
Yes, thank you, President Hernandez. As the what you can read in front of you simply indicates that our newest member of our admin team, Kurt Walsh, as we have been working to get him credentialed, you might remember too, as presented, he's going for an intern admin credential. He's been completely forthright in communicating and working through the process, but we run across a hiccup, and we wanted to make sure that we're transparent in what we're doing. And that is through his college, we're just waiting for their end of it, meaning Cal State's end of it, to completely authorize him to be in the intern program and moving forward. What it did expose, though, typically this is a short process. It's taken longer than expected. In our communication with both Mr. Walsh and briefly with the college, it doesn't appear to be an issue that he will be in. It's a real procedural piece, which we don't have the document. So working with Jessica Humphrey, what we presented to you is the ability for him to work temporarily without that credential, knowing that it will be coming. So it gives us a window, kind of goes a little back into December, but allows us that time. The last statement I would make is when we did contact the college, it appeared to be both a combination of the winter break and some staffing issues that were holding this up. So we, again, don't want this to reflect in any way negatively on Mr. Walsh. So we should anticipate by the next board meeting an update in this area, but we did want to make sure that we took care of it in the appropriate way.
All right, very good. To the board members, any questions? All right, this action is taken to the board for approval. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you very much. A preferential vote? Thank you. And roll call vote. Member Kalum?
Aye.
Clerk Flores?
Aye.
Member Bristol?
Aye.
Member Berenger?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. The ratification and approval is passed.
Thank you.
And that'll take us to item L1, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, President Hernandez. All right, L1 is an item that requests that we initiate a review of our SARCs, our school accountability report cards. As of last year, we went from a one and done approval process to afford you more time to do a comprehensive review. So we're starting to review this session, and then we'll go ahead and bring those SARCs back for approval on the 25th of January. I believe that all of our board has been with us for a SARC process. So just to kind of give you a refresher, and also our stakeholders that are viewing tonight, what the school accountability report cards are. They are documents describing a school's enrollment, learning conditions, for example, teacher and facility quality, and academic performance. SARCs, which are required to be made available annually to every parent in the state by their child's district, are the primary piece of information for parents, the public about individual school conditions and performance. They were made a part of the California Constitution by Proposition 98 in 1988, for a piece of trivia there. So once again, these are the primary information document for the individual schools that serve our school district. So with that, I turn it back over to you to begin the review process. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Not sure how many times I'm going to need that in Trivial Pursuit, but I appreciate that accolade. To the board, any questions to the reviewing of the SARCs?
No, I'd just like to say thank you for giving it to us in advance of needing to approve. It allows us time to digest that information.
It's almost on par with the SIPSs. So,
Yes.
That additional
Indeed.
time, I'm sure, is
25
helpful.
plus pages each.
Yeah, that's 300 pages there. Student board member, you have a question? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I saw a hand go up. Oh, Clerk Flores.
Yeah, my only question is, if we do have questions, do you prefer that we reach out to you, Mr. Miller, first, or can we reach out directly to principals?
Oh, thank you, Member Flores. I was going to do that. I would say if it's a process question or just a question on the template itself, you can direct those questions directly to me. If you have questions regarding content of the SARCs themselves that are school specific, I would say let's do the same thing that we did with the SIPSs and reach out to those administrators directly. We already kind of prompted them yesterday, or let them know that those questions may be coming their way over the next couple of weeks.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Very good. The board has received this information and will do our due diligence and bring back questions or comments over the next couple of weeks to the next board meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. That'll take us to item L2, Mr. Miller.
All right. Thank you again, President Hernandez. We could go ahead and get that presentation up there, Robert. Appreciate it. And my last item for the evening is just to go ahead and bring some information to all of you regarding our LCAP and some of the work that we've been doing to support the same. So today, we're going to be addressing LCAP goal number 1, more specifically action 1.7, which is student engagement, and how we're supporting that action through Kagan cooperative learning, which is very timely since we just completed our day 2 training last Monday, a week ago Monday. So moving on to the next slide there, Robert. I just want to do the goal itself justice. Since a lot of work went into this goal from our LCAP team, so I'm going to go ahead and read it verbatim again, just to remind the board and our stakeholders what it entails. So LCAP goal number 1, Snowline Joint Unified School District will work together through the PLC process, the Professional Learning Community process, to provide equitable access to rigorous curriculum and high-quality, standards-based instruction and assessments by aligning all resources to ensure that all students are prepared to be successful in college and or career. Next slide, please. And we'll go from the macro being the goal itself to the specific action, which will be the micro here. So action 1.7, which defines our action, our goal for student engagement. In order to increase meaningful engagement in rigorous learning and to increase performance of unduplicated students, teachers will intentionally incorporate Kagan cooperative learning structures routinely into all content areas. Performance will be measured on the California Assessment of Student Progress and Performance, or the CAS for short. And let me break that slide down just a little bit more. When we look at that first highlighted area, we talk about increased meaningful engagement. And basically, just to create a picture of that, when we look at a classroom of students, it's being able to see that each and every student is actively engaged in that learning. They're participating. They're just not standing by and watching, but they're participating and ultimately taking ownership of that learning in the classroom. When we look at the second highlighted area, increased performance of unduplicated students, just to define what unduplicated students are again, we're talking about our English language learners, we're talking about our low socioeconomic students, and we're talking about our foster youth. And then the third highlighted area, Kagan cooperative learning, we'll go into a little bit more detail on that and to expand. A lot of our stakeholders, especially the ones that work within the district, know what Kagan is, but we want to offer a little context for our stakeholders at home as well. And the Kagan cooperative learning structures are research-based strategies learned and used within this district since January 2010. Next slide, please, Robbie. Just to give you a recap of Kagan Training Day 2, Part 2. This took place January 4th, which was our non-student day following the holidays. It was broken up into 4 3-hour sessions. So we had 2 in the morning that day, and then 2 also in the afternoon. This was the second half of Day 2 training. The first half occurred on August 9th and 10th. So before we kick things off for the 2021-22 school year. And we found that it was more conducive to break this training down into 3-hour increments this time to allow teachers time for planning purposes, both in the summer and also the day before bringing students back from winter break. So we thought that worked out very well. It was a little less intensive than going to a full day training, but I figured it really maximized and made that training more effective overall. And then we chose, which was a good move, to go to a virtual platform. Ideally, Kagan training is done very well when it's in person, because that's when you're using it in a classroom, you're using it in in-person instruction. But with the spike of COVID cases and everything, we were kind of looking ahead and thought that people would feel more comfortable and more safe if it was done in a virtual environment. So we still received a lot of positive feedback, which I'll talk about a little bit about the training itself. And I think for a lot of our people that work in the district, they did feel that it was safer and more comfortable in that virtual environment. And it hopefully did its part in slowing the spread. Because even going back to August, we did have a handful of close contacts that we had to navigate through after the school year started. So I think that, especially with the current surge, it was the best move. All right, and then moving on to the last bullet on that slide, participants, just to give you an idea of who was participating. We had teachers, administrators, we had district personnel, also one board member. Thank you, Member Berringer, for participating once again.
Absolutely.
I'd love to hear about your thoughts in a little bit, for sure.
Sure.
And just to kind of culminate the training day, just a couple of days ago, I received some survey information from the Kagan folks. The participants were asked to complete an exit survey, and it came back very favorable. Once again, we had 4 sessions. So starting off with the first session for Serrano High School, they had their own session, being that they were such a big staff. On a scale of 1 to 5, they had a 4.2 average, and with some very, very positive comments written in those surveys as well. And then in our second morning session, we had Phelan Elementary School, Pinion Hills Elementary School, Heritage, and then all of our MTS programs participating in that. We had an average of 4.5, along with favorable comments from those groups. And then in the afternoon, we had our two comprehensive middle schools participating together, Pinyon Mesa and Quail Valley, also a 4.5 average on the survey results. And then last but not least, we had Baldwin Mesa, Vista Verde, Wrightwood Elementary, and they also had a 4.5 average on the survey results. So I want to let you know that it was well received from the surveys we received. They were very favorable, and I don't even want to say negative comments, but some of the comments of maybe some disappointment was they wish it was in person. They felt that it would have been more effective, but they understood that it couldn't be done that way this time around. And then going on to the next slide, Robert, just to give the board and our stakeholders who might be watching just a little bit of an overview on Kagan training for day 2 and what Kagan is overall. Wanted to talk about the 6 key concepts of Kagan's cooperative learning. That's broken down into teams, management, will, skill, principles, not the ones that run school sites, and structures. So I'm going to dig a little deeper there. For when we talk about teams, we're talking about how we get students to work together as teams. And it's done very strategically. It's not a free-for-all. It's not choose your own group. Teachers are working very purposefully to set up teams that are going to maximize the learning process in a respective lesson. And then we talk about the way that rooms are structured, using group tables or groups of chairs, desks that are brought together to work on a specific Kagan structure or activity. And these processes are clearly articulated by the teacher. The processes or the structures are explained so that they're predictable for students, and it becomes second nature, part of their learning. So that's what we're looking for in the classroom when principals are doing observations. They're looking for that familiarization with individual structures to show them that they are happening in the classroom. And then we go on to the teachers are instrumental in developing the desire of students to work together and not work in a silo by themselves. Kind of the same lines we'd like our teachers to work together and not in individual silos as well. And then strong social skills are a wonderful byproduct of Kagan structures and will serve the students beyond their formal education as well as within the classrooms. And then PIES being PIES is a key to Kagan. I'm going to talk about that on the next slide. And then lastly, on this slide, we talk about structures, help the class to be more conducive as a learning team, as a unit, and ultimately to better enhance the learning and learning experiences in the classroom. All right, next slide, Robert. Thank you. And coming back to PIES, it's 4 parts here. And once again, this is a very critical foundation of the Kagan process. We have positive interdependence, individual accountability, and equal participation, and lastly, simultaneous interactions. And I'll explain each of those a little bit further. For the P, we talked about students depending on one another in that process. So if we're working together as a team on a project, an area of weakness for me might be an area of strength of one of you, and we can help shore up the learning and hopefully pump up my capacity in that area, that skill or concept that we're learning. For individual accountability, we're looking for students to be able to perform successfully on their own, but we also want them to be able to demonstrate their work to peers, to receive positive feedback or constructive feedback from their peers. I think we all know in the classroom, peers are a very powerful source of learning for students, as well as the classroom teacher. And then we go, ultimately, once it goes from individual work to teamwork, it also will have a favorable result in that student being able to perform independently on assessment or a test. And then we come to E, which is equal participation. Students who normally would hide in the classroom and possibly slip through the cracks become engaged learners when these structures are employed properly. Then lastly, we have S, which is the simultaneous interaction. And basically, the question as an observer going into a classroom is you're asking yourself what percent of students are interacting at once. And let me give you an example of this. If you are my students working in a classroom, and I am just doing it in a traditional lesson delivery and asking questions, I'm going to get one student responding at a time, yes? But if I break you up into two groups of three at the same time, and you're being prompted by a list of questions or activities that I've listed over here, the interaction is happening simultaneously. So that's only two groups of three. If I have five groups of three or five groups of four, you're seeing a lot more interaction happening in the classroom all at once. So you're really maximizing the instructional minutes in your classroom. So that is your brief overview of PIEs. So hopefully I've given you an overview of what happened last Monday and how that was received by the participants that attended the training, given you somewhat not comprehensive, but at least a general overview of some of the Kagan foundational or cornerstone pieces. And that's what I have for all of you today, making that connection to LCAP Goal 2, action number 7. And with that, I'd open it up to any comments or questions.
Thank you very much. Member Berenger, I understand you were a participant.
Yes, and I love it. I love the opportunity to engage with the teachers as they go through this learning process. Kagan, the cooperative learning structures are incredibly dynamic and very engaging for the students. And I think that they're easy to implement for the teachers as well. But it doesn't allow any child to sit back and not participate. You know, it's a systematic structure that authentically engages them in collaborative efforts towards their learning so that they're stepping up and taking responsibility for the process. And it's fantastic. I don't know how many of these I've attended, and I always come away with a great takeaway. It's just a really great program. I enjoyed it.
That sounds absolutely terrible for a high school student like myself. I like my little shell.
Yeah.
I like to be by
No
myself.
more of that. Nope.
Well, I'm always impressed with these trainings, the theories, the what we hear out of this. But is there any opportunity that I can ask Ms. Parr here, practically implemented in classrooms? What are your thoughts or feelings of this kind of information that we receive?
So I actually wanted to thank all of those who were included in this training because personally I've actually seen it within this last week at school, quite a few of these different structures in my class, and it was really helpful to get those different perspectives and opinions on topics rather than just being secluded to a lecture the whole time. So I think that it is essential, and I appreciate you all for taking time to go through it together.
Wow.
That's great feedback.
Yeah, it's the best feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the powerful stuff right there. Board members, any other questions? Nothing there. Well, again, I love hearing about this stuff, not coming from a learning background in terms of a career. It's always interesting to hear these theories, hear these models, because it seems so obvious. You know, when it was first, Kagan was explained to me, instead of the teacher lecturing, as you said, to the entire class, it is a brief discussion, and then you all learn together, and just how connected and how interactive that becomes. I mean, heck, I don't know where I'd be if I did stuff like that while I was in high school, for sure. But thank you for that presentation. I'll always good stuff.
Absolutely. Thank you. You prompted me to just kind of speak to some traditionalists that are out there that really like that lecture time. And I'm not devaluing that at all, because you have to build that context, that content up front. You have to front load students with that. But it's just a matter of being able to give that information to the students and let them expand and grow that information and that learning through these structures.
Clever.
Yeah, and thank you, Alan. I was just going to say something very similar. I want to just amplify your point. Most importantly, amplify Nicole's point. I loved all that you said, and particularly the notion of different perspectives and how that added to your learning. I thank you for sharing that, because unfortunately I learned that too late in life, that the value in that is really powerful. And I don't know if you want to speak any more to it, because I just think that's just such a powerful message you're giving to not just students, but really us as educators.
Well, yeah, so like you had said, I wouldn't devalue from the lecture either, but during these structures, I was able to actually meet students who I have never talked to before in the class at all, and we're halfway through the school year. And if we're to think like we might be working with these people in the future, and this is going to be our future communities, and we don't know them, it's helpful to get comfortable with them now before we just introduce later and not. So.
Yeah, thank you there, Nicole. Appreciate that for sure. Thank you.
Oh, excellent. No, thank you again. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ms. Barr. Appreciate that. Okay, well, that concludes the bulk of the work tonight. We'll turn this over to board member comments, and we'll start with member Kalum.
No comments, thank you.
No problem. Thank you, sir. How about Clerk Flores?
Yeah, thank you, President Hernandez. I just want to say thanks to all of our staff right now who's working just incredibly hard to get through these days with lots of absences and shortages and those sorts of things. I know it seems like everyone is doing, I don't know, 20% more work, 30% more work than usual. So just thank you for that hard work. And to the students, thanks for, well, I hope they're being patient. And to the parents, hopefully they're being patient as well. I know it's not easy with all this stuff going on. So just thanks to everybody. Please just continue to be patient. And to Dr. Holman, I know I say this sometimes just in a text, but just want to tell you this publicly. Thanks for leading the ship right now. I know it's not an easy time. I don't want to say that we're in crisis mode, but with this many absences, it's been pretty difficult. So thanks for showing up, and thanks for leading the team. And I know you'll say it's because you have a great team around you, and you do, and we're grateful for them. But to you specifically tonight, just want to say thanks.
Thank you, sir. Member Bristol.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for that school and spotlight Brightwood presentation. That's pretty good. Looks like a nice community, nice place to work. People can apply. Everybody come on down. A close commute to all the other school sites. Anyways, that was a neat presentation. Thank you for that. Also, it's going to probably sound like a broken record, but I want to thank all the staff for taking care of business, and we're shorthanded. Even I heard stories of the principals are in the classroom and the administration. Everyone is helping out and doing their part, so it's great. Dr. Jones was in a Spanish class that my son's in, so I know that for a fact or firsthand that everyone is jumping around because we're short-staffed. But we've already tried the distance learning experiment. That didn't work for a lot of people, so we need to stay. In my opinion, we got to stay in person, and we got to fight through these next couple of weeks, maybe a month, get through this thing, and we'll be all good. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Member Berenger.
Thank you. So over the holiday break, I had the privilege to spend a good deal of time with my nose in a book. There were 3 very important books that were shared with me. One of them was from Mr. Alan Miller, and I'd like to thank you for that. The book entitled Amplify Your Impact was incredible. Thank you very much for sharing that with me. It was a research-based book with an emphasis on the values of professional learning communities, following the framework involving three major ideas with the focus on learning, building a collaborative culture, and having a results orientation to achieve positive student outcomes. This book is an incredibly powerful tool that will guide the process of developing effective teams of professionals to increase the productivity and enhance best practices as a means to improve the learning process for our students. And it's an incredible resource, and I'm sure that you're having fun delving into that as well. Another two books that were provided to me by Tony Buckley at Phelan Elementary were The Poverty Problem and Coffee Bean books. So I'm really excited for Phelan Elementary staff as they endeavor to address the principles contained within the book, The Poverty Problem. It's chock full of scientific evidence of how the brain structures are altered as a result of the effects of poverty. And so based on these, the staff, I am just so impressed with the fact that they're willing to take this on and work through with this book the strategies that are provided to implement and effectively reverse the negative impact of poverty. With the increasing cultural competence campus-wide, developing positive relationships with students, and the introduction of teaching strategies that have effectively demonstrated to successfully produce greater student achievement. And then along with that, the coffee bean story, which was a really quick read that conveys an inspiring message concerning how to develop the perspective of being a change agent in any given environment. It was such a positive, uplifting message. I really enjoyed it. And thank you very much to Mr. Buckley for sharing those with me. And those are all my comments.
Wonderful, thank you. And student board member, Ms. Park.
Yes, I would just like to first start by saying thank you to the teams who helped to get those student test kits. It's reassuring to know that students are, if they're concerned with their health, they're able to go and test for that and make sure that they're safe for their community and themselves. And also a reminder that for the new year to stay kind and united and start the year off strong. And thanks to our staff as well. Of course, as well, we're thanking them. We all see how hard everyone is working, including your students, and just want to say thank you for that. We appreciate it.
Wonderful, thank you. I'll jump on that broken record to our staff. Thank you so much for all that you guys do. It's tough. You're all hanging in there by a thread at this point, and I see what you're doing, and I appreciate it. We all do, and just hang in there. I also want to share my appreciation for the Snowline Transportation Group. There have been a couple of incidences over the last couple of months. The last one just last week that I was essentially directly impacted by, and just due to the excellent staff of drivers built up by Director Barrasso over there, these significant events were not more involved. One was significant, but it was as good of an outcome as possible. So thank you very much for all that you do, Snowline bus drivers. I do appreciate that. And to you, Ms. Barrasso, do appreciate your entire team out there. And to the rest of the community, please hang in there. Stay safe, be well, take care of each other. We need to get through this, and we can do it together. That'll take us to administrative comments. We'll start with Mr. Chacon.
Yeah, thank you, President Hernandez. And just to kind of echo what you were saying, big heartfelt thank you to our bus drivers. It's been a tough week. Last week was tough as well, but I see some light at the end of the tunnel. Like Dr. Holman was talking about, hoping this is the peak of our COVID-19 surge, and hopefully we'll be on the other side of the hill next week, and things will get better for us. So keep it up, keep working hard, stay safe. We appreciate you. And really just to everybody else, I mean, I know I just feel like we can't say it enough. Like the amount of work that is going on right now is just absolutely unbelievable. I'm sure I don't even know the half of it. But what I do see are people every day stepping up, doing things that are, you know, here to make sure that our kids are safe, that our staff is safe, and to make sure that we're keeping our doors open and making learning happen in our community. And I'm just so grateful and thankful. Thankful my kids are part of this district. I know people love them and care for them and take care of them. And I'm thankful for all my coworkers, colleagues, everybody who is just working so hard to support one another. That's ultimately what is happening. You know, I know our hashtag Snowline United, it may sound a little cheesy, but I've never seen us more united ever than this week, to be honest. So just thank you.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you. Mr. Primo.
Thank you, President Hernandez. You know, I guess I'd start with how many ways can we say thank you, right? I mean, we've heard so many examples. Let me just give you a, you know, that perspective that everybody's had, right? I think we're trying to keep the ship going. If we use Member Flores' example, right? Or the show must go on, right? Or, you know, in-person learning is the best for our kids, right? So, you know, across the system, spotlight, lots of on the transportation, because rightfully so, they're doing miraculous things. Thanks to nutrition services, thanks to purchasing, they went down and they got all of our, in the warehouse, they got all of our kits today. They were out driving them to sites, right? Thanks to everybody who's getting those resources in the hands of parents. Thank you to Joe Knowlton at the high school. He's out there, and Robert Chacon as well. They're out there testing our athletes that are required to be tested in compliance in order that our regular things for high school kids in our community can go on. Thank you for everybody who is doing what needs to get done, because we know it's the right thing to do. It's really, you know, miraculous when it comes down to it, right? We've heard so many things that have been stated, but, you know, my HR team, you know, Haley Widgery, you know, is nightly and in the morning checking to see what she can do to assist sites. And of course, you know, all the rest of the team supporting vaccination, you know, all of the information going in. But Denise Hignite will be my final thank you. If you don't know, Denise is the one person really besides Robert or myself that truly communicates with every single person on the staff that says, hey, I'm not feeling well today, or hey, I tested positive today, or hey, where can I get my rapid antigen test to find out because I was exposed in a close contact. Truly remarkable, the compassion, the composure, and the leadership out of Denise. It's a team effort, but I certainly would want to spotlight her in this occasion because of, I think, really 24/7 almost, right? When in the sense we've been returning. So thank you on so many levels. I'll end by saying again, how many ways can we say thank you? How many miracles can we, you know, really see in one district? It's happening right now. So thank you for the opportunity to share those.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Miller.
Thank you. Well, just to kind of keep the comment thread going here as far as gratitude is concerned, you know, it's just amazing at how many wonderful people are stepping up on a daily basis to do things outside of their normal duties to just keep the machine going. And that goes with Robert Chacon, who's been driving bus routes. We've got our one member of our audience, Mr. Scott Cornell, who's been period subbing like crazy. Just in my own team, we have Deb Peace, who's our teacher on special assignment for technology. She volunteered to go fill some Pinyon Mesa classes. We've got Pam Buchanan, our director of assessment and accountability, who also has made herself available to sub in the classrooms. So, and those are just a few examples of people just stepping up and doing this right to keep our system supporting our students. So that's, you know, that could be echoed and echoed, you know, 1,000 times throughout the district. Uh, Got some good news right hot off the press. We talked about, we spoke about the staffing shortages and teachers, just the struggles in making sure that our classrooms are occupied with teachers. It looks like the governor is going to give us some relief in regards to substitute teachers. Executive Order NTAC 3 TAC 22 just came out. Just received an email through AXA this evening, and it looks like they're going to really be able to build upon the reduction of requirements for substitute teachers moving forward. Just to hit some of the broad strokes, we talk about the requirements for emergency substitute permits being reduced temporarily. Of course, they're looking through March. Substitute teaching extension, so extending the amount of days from 30 days to 60 days for substitutes. I'm sorry, I apologize. That was the previous modification. Now they're talking about going up to 120 days. So that's one. Student teachers, being able to use student teachers in the classroom without the supervision of a credentialed teacher. Penalties will be waived. We talked about that. And then, of course, just the continued promotion of retired teachers coming directly into the classroom and being able to support it. So those are just some things. I really appreciate the state and the governor trying to loosen things up a little bit just so that we can keep operating effectively. And that's all I got tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. Steph?
Yes, just a few things. I can't tell you how this has just been crazy times like I've never seen. And I really just need to thank some individuals who have been willing. We had an entire school office that was going to have to close down, and we can't close an office because there's teachers and kids. And so I'm grateful to Kim Chapman, who went over to a school site she left the high school and immediately went over to step in and help their office, and Missy McFan from the business office, who had previously been employed at that elementary school and went over there and just dug in. And the site secretary, Lucy Jimenez, who is working from home, supporting them in any way that she can, and Tony Buckley as well and his staff, just doing what it takes to keep things going. And so I'm so grateful for that, because it becomes to the point where it's going to affect students and parents and everybody, and we can't have that happen. So the other thing is, as Alan was reviewing the Kagan structures, I sit here as an adult who has not been in school in years, and these are some of the tools and strategies that they've used in our leadership council meetings. Charlotte Eckenroth and Pam Buchanan. And I remember thinking the first time that we had to do it, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. I'm going to look like an idiot. I don't want to do this. I don't want to pick a card and try to, but honestly, it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed these methods that we have also been able to have the opportunity to do as that leadership team. And lastly, I would just say, honestly, transportation, hands down. I listen to them on the radio every day. I talk to Shannon Barasa off and on. And when you talk about our core values and the best of humanity at all times, we see it daily. We see it daily from everybody, every school site, every support office, everybody. And so I'm just grateful for all of them because it just helps to make what we do for putting out all of these million fires every day that much easier. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Holman.
Thank you, President Hernandez. I'm going to start with some information that all the board members and, of course, anyone else who has a listening ear here need to know. And that is, it revolves around Senate Bill 328, passed a number of years ago, set to be enacted in the fall of 2022. And real quickly, that legislation is specific to school start times. Now, there's a waiver. Well, let me finish. Hold myself for a second and finish. The crux of that legislation is that beginning in the fall of 2022, all middle schools cannot begin any earlier than 8 o'clock, and that's in the state of California, of course. And then all schools in this state that are high schools cannot begin any earlier than 8:30. Now, there's a waiver process, and we just recently got a legal opinion and qualify for the waiver because of our rural nature. And I think the waiver is in place very appropriately because rural schools have more challenges. It was very much said numerous times here about the transportation department and the outstanding work that they're doing. I can get back to that later. But we did qualify for that rural waiver. And so right now's not the setting to have a lengthy discussion, but we'll bring that back and have a discussion. That the power in that waiver is, if nothing else, it provides us with flexibility and time to continue in the way that we are right now, and then thoughtfully make decisions as we see as appropriate and not have those forced upon us by legislation, which, to be quite frank, would have made it incredibly difficult, expensive, and challenging on so many fronts. A well-intended, and I would argue the research is very powerful that I would agree with relative to sleep and so forth, but allowing us now to do it in the best ways for our community based upon that waiver. So look for more information coming forward, but want to give you all of that information specific to our qualifications for that waiver. And then, everything that's been said from the beginning from, I think, Clerk Flores, thank you so much for the very, very kind comments, but you're absolutely right. The power of team is right on there. I thank you for what you said. And I loved your comments about team all the way up to Nancy and in between. Let me begin with what's most important, right, to all of us, and those are our students. And Nicole Parr, represents that. And specifically, thank you for all that you do in this role, for your just very salient and powerful and relevant comments tonight. But I want to really focus on the one you talked about with kindness, you as the ASB president and with the ASB director here doing some powerful things, having just wonderful outcomes in that area and getting ready, I think, for an effort in January specific to the Great Kindness Challenge. Are you able to speak to that real quickly, Nicole? Do you mind doing that? I know it's initial planning, but just the big picture, because I think that's powerful that you're taking that on to the school. It's a big task, but a worthy one.
I'm not entirely sure what our plans are to encourage directly to the students our kindness, but that I believe it's taking place January 24th, and that's when we will start that. So tomorrow we have our meeting, and we'll make sure to discuss that further.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love that. I know you're in the middle of planning, but I just, in the big picture, I love the commitment to that, right? It says a lot about you as a leader, as him as a leader, all of the ASB students in that entire school. And we do that across our district. We're a kindness certified district. I love that representation. So thank you. We're having meetings as well soon to make sure that we do that soon. Oh, yeah, we know there's a lot going on. That's okay. We know that there's a lot going on. But Nicole, thank you for leading that cause out there at Snowline High School. And let's just get, just end the evening by I guess my final comments about what's going on in this pandemic and ultimately our first core value, our people, right, matter immensely. They matter immensely. And I would say this, that you've heard me say before, if how we hope is how we live, I hope everyone understands at least a growth area for me, and that is in the area of gratitude and how grateful I am for our people. And some evidence of that, I think, has been said across this system so many times. I'll begin with all of you board members. Thank you for for entrusting us with this effort. Thank you for supporting the effort. Boy, the shoulders that all of you have to shoulder all that's been going on through this pandemic. Here's another one, right? So thank you for having those strong and broad shoulders to be able to do what you're doing, and that is weather this storm in the leadership positions that you are. The senior cabinet right here, it's just amazing the hours that they're putting in, just like so many staff members, but the leadership that we're getting from them is so needed, and so I'm just so grateful for them. And then across our system, I mean, we've already heard great examples of what's happening here, and I guess I'll keep it still a little bit broad. But what we've endeavored to do is to play, I guess, a game of chess right now, and that is we've got all these powerful pieces, and we're moving them about. You've heard from school to school, across our system, to weather the storm like you're talking about. Because what's best for kids is in-person learning, in my view. I think we all agree with that. It's hard at times. It's really hard right now. I want to give some evidence, though, real quickly. Up and down the state, and we see it in our data, too. Right now, the amount of anxiety and depression and trauma that kids are experiencing right now throughout this pandemic is at really epic proportions here. And actually, for staff members, those numbers are even higher. But through this crisis, we're seeing the best of character. That's when we do see character, right? Either one way or the other. And we're seeing the best of character right now in Snowline. And I will tell you, I love the character of Snowline right now because, the capacity for everyone day in, day out right now to come and do the work because of these students is something that I've never seen. I'm so grateful again for what's happening. I thank each and every individual for persevering and being resilient and saying we're going to do this for kids, and we're getting it done. Tomorrow's going to be a hard day again. So too is Thursday. So too will Friday. But people keep coming back, and I thank everyone for doing it, coming back and doing the good work. The parents and our community members, the families that are supporting us, thank you for your patience. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for being empathetic. We greatly appreciate it because we know every organization is shorthanded right now. Thank you for bearing with us as we do what is most important, and that's serving these kids. And so I just end by saying how grateful I am for this community, how grateful I am for our staff members right now. And again, if how we hope is how we live, I hope that everyone believes we're going to get through this and we're going to be better for it in the end game, because that's what we're doing here at Snowline. And we will be better, and the end of this will be coming. And at the end of what we're experiencing, is going to be a better outcome for Snowline. Thank you, President Hernandez.
Thank you, Dr. Holman. Didn't mention much about the storms and the rough waters, and our Navy veteran here. I guess it's true that if calm seas never made a skilled sailor, we've probably got the most skilled group on hand from the top all the way down to every single level in the district. So thank you all again. There being no further business come before the board, I would accept the motion to adjourn.
Make motion.
Thank you, sir. And a second.
Second.
And preferential vote from our student board member. And we'll take a roll